There we go. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Sally. Hello, Sarah. Already in the chat. Aville's there as well. Trigger, how are we? Should probably bring this a little bit closer. Pop that there. Let me just double check we are live in both of these. Bada bing, bada boom. Beautiful. There we go. Right, from my end, it's all looking good. Hopefully, we are there. Let's hope. Hope and pray. Oh, actually, the chat isn't updating. Interesting, interesting. I'll give it a second. It is wet. It is indeed. Hello, Josh. How's it going? Hello, Nova. Tuning in earlier than usual. Appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, unfortunately, however you see it, it is raining in the UK. It caught me out a little bit earlier on. I was outside, got wet. It is raining pretty significantly, I would say. Heavy, heavy rain, which is gonna throw a little bit of a spanner in the works, isn't it? You know, Silverstone, it's a classic. It's one of the best races on the calendar. Some people say the best race on the calendar. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of anti-British bias. I quite like to see the other tracks. I quite like to, go outside of the UK. Canada for me, Brazil. They're the ones that I kind of look forward to most. Singapore, obviously. But Silverstone does generally deliver, and the mixed weather conditions does mean that anybody is in the mix for the victory today. We'll have a little delve into it a little bit more, but I'd love to know who you guys think will be on top step of the podium, because I think it could be very, very tasty indeed. Like, to the point where I just have no idea who is going to be able to come out on top. McLaren t-shirt. Am I supporting Lando today? I'm supporting McLaren all day, every week, every month, every year. Is it raining like Pan World? I don't know what Pan World is, but possibly. Certainly could be raining like Pan World. Or maybe not. Ah, there we go. We have the chat connected. Beautiful. That's what I've just been doing. I don't think Max will win running the skinny rear wing in the rain. Shall we delve into it, Josh? You've kind of delved me into it straight away. I was going to go into predictions, but I suppose predictions does also link quite heavily into where people are starting, what people are doing. How many minutes until it starts? About 25 probably by now. Now that we've got everything sorted and loaded in the background. We're all ready to go. But yeah, it is going to be interesting. Get your predictions in nonetheless. But as Josh has preempted us too, looking at the qualifying board from yesterday, Max Verstappen did manage to nab pole position. But one of the major factors in him nabbing that pole position, if you've watched the onboards, Formula One do some really good like ghost videos where they show the two closest pole position contenders side by side. So it was Verstappen and Piastri. If you've watched that, you'll notice that Verstappen in particular was gaining a lot on the really high speed areas of the track. He was running a slightly lower downforce setup than the rest of the grid in and amongst him, where the McLarens were running a slightly higher downforce setup. And now that the rain is forecasted, and the fact that the rain is continuing to fall down at the moment, actually. I was just trying to see whether people had umbrellas up or not. There's a lot of umbrellas on the Formula One grid with Martin Brundle currently on there at the moment. But it does feel like that skinny rear wing that maybe just about propelled Max Verstappen ahead of the gap, ahead of the rest of the pack in terms of qualifying yesterday is actually going to play against him a little bit today. Going to need that extra bit of downforce, especially around Silverstone. Super high speed circuit. When it's slippery like this, you're relying on that downforce to, well, keep you on the track a lot of the time, keep you on the racing line. I think Max Verstappen could be under threat, but then you have the flip side of that. If it does then dry up a little bit, like we were getting to the point just sort of 10 minutes ago where it hadn't rained for a little while. The wind is pretty brisk, so it was starting to dry the track pretty significantly, and we might have seen the cars start on the softer compound tire. Oh, the slick tires, I should say, sorry. But now it started raining again, so the intermediate tires are looking more likely the option. I'll keep it 50-50 though. It could certainly dry up within the next half an hour. We could maybe see somebody gamble on a slick pair of tires, but I do think it's going to be intermediate if the rain continues as it is right now, and as it is forecast to continue. Hello, hello. I thought McLaren sold? But sounds of McLaren cooked. Yeah, it's one of those things. They just ran that slightly higher downforce setup yesterday than Max Verstappen. So now playing into their favour, unless it dries, and then Max Verstappen's going to have the advantage on the straights, and maybe Max Verstappen can get some overtakes done. It's going to be a real sort of back and forth in terms of strategy decisions, in terms of the weather around them, and whether or not they're on slick tires or intermediate tires, whether or not the grip is there for the slick tires as well. So I think this is still really, really up in the air. I think it's very, very difficult to predict out of like the top 6 who could be there, to be honest. So maybe we see even like a Lewis Hamilton win. Do I say it? Does anybody say it? Do we say that now? Obviously has won here 10 times in the past, has a streak of 13 podiums in a row, is starting ahead of his teammate, which hasn't happened too often this season as well. Hamilton is in the mix. George Russell has never actually been on the podium in Silverstone, as weird as that is to think about. I think we kind of forget that George Russell started and had so many years at Williams where he was not competitive even slightly. And then even since he's been at Mercedes, the Mercedes car hasn't been the Mercedes of previous eras, has it? So it would be interesting if Russell can get his first podium at his home Grand Prix as well. Dare I say we could even see a full British podium? It's going to be weird. It's going to be there. Stop jinxing. I should. Don't dare. I shouldn't jinx it, but I've said it all. Maybe if I just say all the possible options, then it's not really a jinx, is it? Could we see a full non-British podium? Verstappen, Piastri, Leclerc could certainly be our podium at the end of the Grand Prix as well. I feel like Piastri would absolutely love that if that were the case, especially if he's leading it of those 3. But any of those 6, maybe even Fernando Alonso gets in the mix as well. So how about a 3 Brit podium, Lewis, George, and Lando? How about Lewis, George, and Behrman? Ollie Behrman only starting from 18th place, but showed he's got pace yesterday. Shall we make our way down the grid then and talk about it properly? Verstappen starting from pole position. As I say, I think with the conditions they are right now, but then on the other side, we say, you know, Max Verstappen is an expert in the wet. So if ever you need an expert in the wet, it's right now at Silverstone when the conditions are ridiculously unpredictable. And Verstappen is pretty quick in those conditions generally. So starting from pole position, setup not really in his favour, but maybe talent in his favour. It's going to be a very, very tight race, I feel like, for Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri just behind, leading the 2 McLarens just about in terms of qualifying yesterday. I feel like when it comes to Piastri versus Norris, we haven't seen like a proper head-to-head yet. It feels like there's been weekends where it's threatened to be that, but one of them has had a clear advantage over the other. Like last time around, okay, Oscar had a little go at Lando in Austria, but we never really get to see that battle play out, did we? And Piastri just didn't have the pace of Norris over the whole Austrian Grand Prix weekend. Like, Norris is just very, very quick in Austria. Maybe this is the time we actually get to see the two McLaren cars properly battle it out. Piastri versus Norris off the start. Does Piastri try and go to take Verstappen, or does he cover off Lando Norris? It's going to be it's going to just be very interesting. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but I'm just really excited to see what is going to happen in that front three. And then you've got George Russell behind in fourth place. George Russell, obviously, as I just mentioned, hasn't picked up a podium at his home Grand Prix yet. Probably should have been on the podium last year had it not been for that reliability issue. But there has been reliability issues inside of the Mercedes car this year as well. George Russell starting fourth. I wouldn't throw him out of contention either. I think the McLaren is pretty decent. It's slightly colder than it was yesterday, which isn't saying much, but you know, when it comes to the Mercedes car, it does seem like if you just drop the temperature by 3 or 4 degrees, suddenly the tyres seem to work so much better. So George Russell starting in fourth place. Lando Norris will, again, does he cover off Russell? Does he go for Piastri? I think there's such a difficult decision for a lot of those guys right at the front of the grid to be making. Then starting on the third row of the grid, the two Ferraris. I was expecting a bit more from the Ferraris come qualifying yesterday. But there is a possibility that, similar to what the McLarens did, they've kind of prepped in anticipation of maybe qualifying being wet, which we were expecting, but never happened. And then the race being wet, which certainly looks like it's going to start under those kind of conditions. Hamilton, Leclerc. Again, Hamilton just seems to be able to make things happen here, doesn't he? Just seems to be able to make things happen. Even when he's starting outside of the top 5, 6, you know, he just does get onto the podium, or he just about manages to win the Grand Prix out of nowhere. Like, the strategy seems to go in his favor. Something rolls in his way, and it's just like, you know, he's won this race on 3 tires before. He's won this race from ridiculous positions before. He just knows how to win in Silverstone, does Lewis Hamilton. And even starting from 5th place, I just sort of believe he will. Like, there's just sort of a faith, like, oh yeah, he will get on the podium. Don't worry about it. It's the other 2 positions on the podium and kind of where on the podium Hamilton slots in is the real question. I just have a feeling. Just have a feeling. Although Charles Leclerc will be hoping that it's him. Leclerc hasn't won a race so far yet this season. He's been talking about that and discussing how Hamilton doesn't have a win either. He has a sprint race win, I guess, when it comes to his time at Ferrari, but Charles Leclerc will be looking at the fact that Verstappen's got a win, the fact that Russell's managed to get a win, and he'll be thinking, Charles Leclerc, I'm the main man at Ferrari. Ferrari deemed to be one of the top teams. Let's go for hopefully a good performance from Charles Leclerc. Generally goes pretty well here, but then also has some pretty poor luck when it comes to the Silverstone track. All of that top 6, though, I'd love for you guys to let me know your thoughts on it and who's going to be where come the end. Like, if you can predict that top 6, I'd be very, very impressed. I think it's going to be all over the place. And I think it's going to be so tight, depending on how the strategy plays out, how the rain comes and goes, because it's stopped raining now, but again, it's still wet. So not like it's, you know, absolutely perfect racing conditions. Slick start, possibly. Yeah, it's kind of gone back and forth, hasn't it? It was like, yeah, they'll definitely sort of slick start. Then it started raining again, so they took intermediate tires onto the grid. Sort of stopped raining again a little bit now. But there's still threats of rain in and around the circuit. And to be honest, you know, as someone who's in the UK, and a very different part of the UK, but looking at the weather and how it's been over the morning so far, the rain can turn on and off seemingly instantaneously. Like, I went to the shops earlier, went into the shop, it was beautiful blaring sunshine, like one of the nicest mornings that we had. Was in the shop for about 20 minutes, came out of the shop, absolutely disaster struck, rain everywhere, storm clouds above. It was like some sort of apocalyptic scene in front of me and got absolutely drenched. So the weather can change on a dime when it comes to the UK. And I'll be very interested to see which one of these 6 drivers at the top can take advantage. Shall we even say that Fernando Alonso is in the mix? Obviously part of that midfield pack more so. Fernando Alonso starting in 7th place, one of his better qualifyings. Just scrolling on YouTube, saw the tour live. Going to miss the race. Save my day. No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. Hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Max Verstappen. So much sounds like you're in love with your own voice. What? Ollie Behrman there. Where were we? Fernando Alonso starting in 7th place. Best of the rest in terms of the midfield pack. Has kind of found a little bit of form since his home Spanish Grand Prix. Has managed to get some points on the board fairly consistently, hasn't he, Fernando? So hoping that that continues for him and hoping that the Aston Martin continues to be easier for him to drive. I think just looking at the Constructors' Championship, a Fernando Alonso good points haul here should shuffle them up above Haas in terms of the Constructor standings, possibly even in front of Racing Bulls as well. An 8-point swing would be needed, but not impossible considering where Fernando Alonso is starting and the possibility of chaos in front of him. It's then, is it unlikely that the Red Bulls, or the Racing Bulls, sorry, will score points there too? And then if you look at Fernando Alonso as well, on equal points to Lance Stroll, his teammate. So now looking like this weekend might be the turning point for him in that. And it's therefore looking like Fernando Alonso is going to take his, I was going to say rightful place, but I suppose you've got to earn it. His earned place as the number 1 driver inside of an Aston Martin seat. Again, 7 points off Isaac Hajar. So if he does get that 8 points, maybe he can move above Isaac Hajar, get to Nico Hülkenberg level of points, Esteban Ocon on 23. Fernando Alonso is not out of this in terms of possibly getting back up to 9th place in the championship, which is where he absolutely dominated the championship before. You might remember he was just in 9th place. Nobody could even touch him in the championship last year, but a little bit more work for Fernando Alonso to do to get 9th place again. Pierre Gasly starting in 8th place just beside him. Just manages to put in performances, does Gasly, when it comes to qualifying. Seems like that Alpine is absolutely nowhere. Like the Alpine was all over the place when it came to free practice. And then Gasly just made it click for qualifying. In the race, though, you know, if Austria is anything to go by, I feel like we're going to see Gasly fall away from that 8th place position. You know, maybe the conditions play into his favour. Again, maybe he can do what he did in Brazil last year and wang at a brilliant result for Alpine in and amongst the chaotic ins and outs of intermediate tyres, slick tyres, pit stops everywhere. But in terms of the raw pace of that Alpine, I just don't trust it to stay inside of the point scoring places, especially when you look at some of the drivers behind. Carlos Sainz starting in 9th place. Again, you know, he would have hoped to get through to Q3. The Williams car, they were a bit disappointed with their performance yesterday. Alex Albon in particular, who we'll get to. But I think Carlos Sainz has shown, well, he's won here in a Ferrari. He's shown that he can do what he needs to do to get results here at Silverstone. And possibly an opportunity of Carlos Sainz moving forwards as well. Kimi Antonelli starting in 10th place after that 3-place penalty picked up for hitting Max Verstappen in Austria. He starts in 10th place. Again, another driver who I'm expecting to be moving forwards rather than backwards. And a driver that I'm expecting to get closer to those top 6 rather than sort of sticking in and amongst the midfield pack who he starts with. Yuki Tsunoda starts in 11th place. It was a pretty poor qualifying from him overall, but obviously with Antonelli dropping back 3 positions and Behrman dropping back 10 positions, it allows a few of those drivers to just gain positions here or there, and it's put Yuki Tsunoda just on the cusp of points as well. So Yuki Tsunoda starting in 11th place. Could do with some points here, could Yuki Tsunoda. You know, we're 3 races away from the summer break. It's not been an amazing start to his Red Bull season. You know, I know he didn't get the first 2 races of the season, but 7 points scored inside of a Red Bull car is not really anything to write home about at the moment. So, unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda needs a good result, and maybe this weekend is the one where he can get it. Isaac Hajar starts in 12th place, the man who's been scoring the points for the sister Red Bull team throughout this season. Just one of the best rookies on the grid right now. The debate whether Isaac Hajar is the best rookie on the grid overall continues to rage on. And with him starting right next to Yuki Tsunoda, that's a battle that will surely continue to blaze. And if Isaac Hajar can get a move on Yuki Tsunoda down towards turn 1 and cause a headache for the Japanese driver, that would be a very, very fun little side project for us to keep an eye on throughout the 52 laps of Silverstone. Alex Albon starts in 13th place. Disappointed, I think, can move forwards as well. Esteban Ocon starts in 14th. Liam Lawson starts in 15th. He'll be disappointed considering how quick he was in Austria. But just didn't quite have the pace when it came to yesterday's qualifying. Gabriel Bortoleto, his first point scored in Austria, but starts from 16th place. The stakes album not where we expected it to be come this weekend. Lance Stroll starts 17th. Ollie Behrman qualified in 8th place. There's a lot of pace inside of that Haas car for Ollie Behrman in front of his home crowd. 18th place, certainly not where he should be starting. Had he not made that mistake in free practice 3 coming into the pit lane, he would have been starting in 8th place. Well, actually 7th place, right? No, I don't think he out-qualified Alonso. But Antonelli would have moved behind him. Nico Hulkenberg then starts in 19th place, and Franco Colapinto, after his, I was going to say collision with the barriers. I guess that is technically true, but the barriers weren't the thing that took him out of the race, or not race, qualifying yesterday. He bumped into the barriers at turn 17, turn 18 yesterday, continued on for another couple of corners, and then came to a stop. So unfortunately, Franco Colapinto, not the start that he would have wanted. Obviously, his 6th race in an Alpine, so we can now get that direct comparison between the Alpine races of Jack Doohan. He got the first 6 races of the season compared to the Alpine races of Franco Colapinto. He got the next 6 races of the season. And in fact, one of my fantastic Discord members in Sarah sent me the comparison between the two because I was going to bring this up. And it is Franco Colapinto. Oh, no, sorry. So Jack Doohan got a DNF. Not great. A 13th, a 15th, a 14th, a 17th, and another DNF. So 13, 14, 15. So let's call it, 14 as an average, couple of DNFs in there. Luckily, Franco Colapinto, no DNFs so far. But it's, a 16th, a 13th, a 15th, a 13th, a 15th. You could argue slightly better, but considering a lot of those places have been gained where drivers have kind of crashed out or had problems, they're very comparable. I just think that Jack Doohan versus Colapinto, I know that the Alpine car is pretty difficult to compare anyway because it's not been anywhere near the level that Alpine would have expected it to be this season. But, Franco Colapinto hasn't done, I would say, that much better than Jack Doohan. We're talking very minimal gains in terms of the positions that we have got. Let's discuss as well. Sarah's officially fantastic. Cheers. I appreciate all of the members. I love the Discord, actually, the members Discord. We kind of drop in and out. Sarah's, I think, running it at this point. Who's taking Max out today? Colapinto. Very good. Let's final little bits and pieces before we get into the Grand Prix itself, because I just realized we're only 5 minutes away from the starting lights here in Silverstone. Switch every 5 races. Yeah, maybe actually. Maybe, Doohan gets 6 races. Colapinto gets 6 races. Who can we put in? Bottas. Bottas has been linked to that Alpine seat. Maybe Bottas comes in to do the next 6 races of the season. Problem is they've then used their 4-driver limit. So we can't have like a 5th driver come in to do the last 6 races of the season. That'd be interesting, though. Maybe they just put Pierre Gasly in the other chassis. They just swap Pierre Gasly into the other car. Anyhow, Silverstone. We've got the C2, C3, C4 in terms of the slick compound tyres. But as we've just said, it is on and off in terms of the rain. So likely that we will see some intermediate tyres at some point, I would say. Then on the flip side of that, we know it's a really high-speed circuit. I think just staying on the track might be one of the most competitive things you can do here today. I imagine there's going to be a bit of chaos when it comes to the start, even just getting yourself around the first lap. I'm not sure all 20 drivers will be able to do so, and therefore playing into your favor, if you can just keep it clean, which I know is difficult to say, especially if somebody takes you out, right? Like Max Verstappen kept it clean in Austria, but couldn't help that he was smashed into by Kimi Antonelli. So that plays into there as well. Whether or not... It's one of those things, it's sort of really high on tyre stress here in Silverstone, like high tyre degradation, but the track isn't too abrasive, so the strategy, if we do get a full sort of slick tyre race, will still be quite weird to call for a lot of these teams, especially because it's low temperature as well. It's about 17 degrees, 26 degrees track temperature for the 52 laps of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. I just feel like with the rain coming in, none of this really matters. But it's good to share with you, you know, worth mentioning just before we get into the Grand Prix itself. Quick reminder of the driver standings as well. Oscar Piastri leads by 15 points to Lando Norris. If Lando Norris can win all three of the Grand Prix until the summer break, there is nothing that Oscar Piastri can do about Lando Norris leading the championship going into the August break. But that is easier said than done, and Lando Norris does start behind his teammate this weekend. Max Verstappen, George Russell just behind as well. 11 points between them in the battle for third place. The two Ferraris then slotting in 5th and 6th at the moment. All of those 6 drivers in contention for the win here today. So could dramatically change the look of that Drivers' Championship depending on where those 6 end up. And then the midfield battle behind Ocon, Hülkenberg, Hajar, Alonso. Keep your eyes on those guys because they are going to be all over the place and they're going to be swapping strategies left, right, and center to try and gain that kind of best of the rest position. Alex Albon just out of stretch of sort of the guys behind you would say for now in terms of best of the rest, but maybe, just maybe, he is able to be caught by some of those guys behind. As I say, it's going to be super tight. Everybody's starting on the intermediate tyres. So there we were saying, will they start on the slicks? Will they start on the inters? Confirmed now the intermediate tyres are on for, well, everybody on the grid. Actually, I was expecting maybe somebody to gamble on a set of slicks, but it's not quite there. The rain hasn't stopped enough and for long enough for us to be in a position where the slick tyres can come out. But I would be very impressed if the slick tyres don't come actually quite soon, considering where we are right now. Here we go then. We once again have to do the debate. So for yesterday, you guys wanted the sectors on the track map. Do we want the sector colours on the track map for the race? Because to be honest, the sectors don't really make that much of a difference for the race in qualifying. They are very, very important. I will appreciate that. But it's up to you guys. I can turn them on. I can turn them off. Thank you to Multiviewer for putting these settings available to us for the British Grand Prix weekend. But let me know what you think if you want the colours on or off in terms of the track map. Oh, and I've just realised I need to change the track map anyway. Let me just shuffle that into position. Sector colours in DRS. No colours, no colours. Yes, please. Not for the race. Only DRS. No, I think for quali. Nope. It's a very mixed bag. Should we do an actual poll? Start a poll. Sector colours. Yes. No. Start poll. There you go. You can get your feelings in. You know, you're here early, you're here first. So you can get your opinions in before I assume we're going to get the rush of people that generally join the stream literally as the race is starting. Has just ticked over to 3 o'clock. We're going to start the formation lap here. Maybe just a little bit slower on the formation lap than normal, you would imagine. The intermediate tyres on. There's a little bit of spray, actually. A bit more spray than I was expecting, considering the rain stopped 20-25 minutes ago from what I could see. So, Verstappen now away. Just having a little look. Yeah, slide. Who will win? That, I mean, is the question. Hey, Mallory, how's it going? Long time no see. It's all right, no problem. Quite like the new map options. Nice to see the pit lane detail, but no colours. Okay. Interesting. There we go. We are set. Who's starting in the pits? Nobody, by the looks of things. Well, nobody that I know of. Colapinto actually falling a little bit behind Hulkenberg, but I think we'll catch up to Hulkenberg in a moment. Here we are then. Oh. How are we doing on the poll? It's a yes on the poll. Not what I was expecting. But fair. If people want it, people want it. Is this a formation lap? It is indeed. Apologies, just getting a couple of things loaded up to the side. There we go. And I'll pop the colours back on in a second. But we are getting ever closer to the start of the British Grand Prix. So I'll leave it just for a moment. Max Verstappen making his way around the... Oh! And Russell and Leclerc are in. This is what I thought, you know. I thought a couple of drivers might gamble on it. Didn't think they'd be as high up on the standings as Russell and Leclerc. But Russell goes for hard compound tyres as well. Charles Leclerc out of the pits. Isaac Hajar has come into the pits as well. Franco Colapinto making that gamble. Here you go. Already we're getting some strategy decisions. Already we're getting some ridiculousness from the Silverstone Grand Prix. Piastri says the last sector is too wet for slicks. That's the gamble, isn't it? That's the gamble that you're taking in that position. You're hoping that... You know, you're going to have a couple of laps where it is probably going to be tricky. But in a couple of laps' time, when everybody on the intermediate starts coming in, got quite a few drivers into the pits then. But 5 red lights. Let's keep an eye on the drivers actually on track. Max Verstappen gets away well. So does Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri's going to have the inside line, of course, down towards turn 1. But Piastri can't quite get ahead of Max Verstappen. Verstappen covers him off. Lando Norris then trying to find a way around and has to slot into 3rd place. They're going to go side by side up towards turn 3 and 4. But Piastri closes the door on his teammate. Lewis Hamilton then has a little look at the 2 McLaren cars as well. It's going to continue this battle. Piastri not looking fully planted on those intermediate tyres yet. Lando Norris right behind. Oh, and it's a yellow flag in the first sector. I think it was Liam Lawson that went off there. Spun around. Russell, Leclerc, Hajar, Bortoletto. They're all joining the back of the pack now. Liam Lawson still going slow. As Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri also have a little look at one another again. And Lando Norris is right under the rear wing of his teammate. Piastri trying to break the toe and also trying to get back towards where Max Verstappen is very tight indeed at the front. Oh my goodness me. Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Hamilton. all very tight together. Liam Lawson has come to a stop between turns 5 and turn 6 on that straight. The RB car rolling down, but not yet there. Oscar Piastri again trying to break the toe. Here comes Lewis Hamilton on Lando Norris trying to catch him out. And Hamilton is going to try and make the move on Lando Norris. Is he going to be able to make his stick through turn 15? I don't think so, but Hamilton's still side by side with Norris in 16 and 17. Hamilton, though, has to settle behind the McLaren car. He's not going to let it go down this straight, though. They come round to start the second lap of the race. And Verstappen still leads. Piastri second now. And oh my goodness, Lando Norris going from fighting with his teammate, and it is a virtual safety car then deployed as Hamilton does have a little look at Norris, only to have to slot back in. Behind that, I was looking at the front runners, but behind that is absolute chaos still. Liam Lawson's car has come to a stop. George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Isaac Hajar, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Ollie Behrman, the 5 drivers who pitted. They are on slick tyres. Well, it hasn't updated on the track map, unfortunately. Hopefully it will soon. Charles Leclerc has pitted. So Russell, Leclerc, Hajar, Bortoleto, Behrman, those 5 at the back of the pack behind Ocon have pitted. Ocon, Stroll, Hulkenberg just outside of the point scoring places then. Tsunoda is now behind Alex Albon in all of that. Albon got a really, really good start up into 9th place. Antonelli up into 8th place. Carlos Sainz gaining a couple of positions too with the drivers in front of him pitting. And Gasly managed to get the better of Fernando Alonso and has moved up a position into 5th. Fernando Alonso down into 6th place. Of course, we are missing Russell and Leclerc, who would have started in that top 6. So Gasly and Alonso still not really running. Well, they are running there. I suppose they're on different strategy to the cars behind. You can see Russell on a hard compound tyre. Leclerc, Hajar, Bortoleto all went for the mediums. Oh! And Liam Lawson, it was contact with Esteban Ocon that we can see there. That's why Esteban Ocon has slotted in behind. And Liam Lawson keeping his foot down. Oh! I don't know if Ocon did too much wrong. I think Lawson maybe closed the gap a little bit too much. And Lawson, as you can imagine, was not overly happy with those two. Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri side by side under the virtual safety car conditions. Kimi Antonelli has come in. Antonelli then into the pits and going for some slick tyres is hard compound tyres on Kimi Antonelli's car as well. Will Antonelli still come out in front of Russell? Surely, considering the virtual safety car, yeah, comfortably in front of his teammate. And actually in a nice little bit of clean air, Kimi Antonelli. So we'll get to see the proper pace of Kimi Antonelli's car there. Oh, as he goes off at turn 3. Was it a little bit early for Kimi Antonelli to put those slick tyres on? He just made a mistake there at turn 3. Okay, interesting. Still virtual safety car at the moment. And Esteban Ocon saying the whole track is good for slicks apart from the last 2 corners. So it's again, do you make that gamble now? Do you wait for the corners at the end to sort themselves out? It's a tricky one, man. It's really, really tricky for those guys inside of the cars and the strategists looking at the screens. Map is lagging. Well, I apologize. I can't really do too much. Shall I reset it? Then people will just get annoyed because I'm resetting it. Here you go. I'll change the timings of it. See how many cars going into the pits at the end of this lap? That's the thing, right? If Esteban Ocon is saying that he wants to pit, Ocon at the back of the sort of pack of cars that hasn't pitted yet. Antonelli at the front of those. Franco Colapinto. What did happen to Franco Colapinto? That is a great question. Stalled and got stuck in second gear in the pit lane. Ouch. Yeah, I didn't even think of Franco Colapinto in and amongst it, honestly, because that is the last thing I was looking at. This Lando Norris battle with Lewis Hamilton was brilliant through the final sector. Hamilton right beside Lando Norris, just sort of trying his best to position himself on the inside of a corner, but Norris did really well. Norris nearly losing the car as well in the final sector, but virtual safety car is ending, and we're back underway once again. Max Verstappen leads from Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris behind, Lewis Hamilton on the radio. And rain expected in 10 laps. Rain expected in 10 laps from the Ferrari pit wall. Gasly 5th, Alonso 6th, Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon now side by side in the two. Oh, and Gabriel Bortoleto has spun. Gabriel Bortoleto has spun on the slick tyres, and Gabriel Bortoleto has hit the wall at turn 4. And that feels like it's going to be a full... Oh, no. He's got it. He's got it moving again in the gravel, and actually has got away. He's managed to move that car and is going to get underway again. Okay, green flag waved. Gabriel Bortoleto into the barriers, but has managed to keep that Stakes Alba car running. That's very impressive. See what kind of damage there's been done to that Stakes Alba. Going down towards turn 3, 4. It's going very slowly. He's tentative as Gabriel Bortoleto, but he is on the slick tyres and just gets on the gas, on the throttle a little bit too early. There is damage to the rear end of that Stakes Alba car. He's definitely going to have to come in and pit. Possibly for a new, well, definitely for a new rear wing. And Bortoleto very annoyed on the radio, but as he said, very tricky out there. So unfortunately for Bortoleto, it's gone from point scoring places in Austin to now looking like he might be out of the race as well. That'll be Bortoleto, Lawson and Colapinto. Colapinto out of the race already. Liam Lawson as well has come to an end. Pierre Gasly then sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And Bortoleto, I think, has gone off again. Bortoletto's come to a stop in the middle part of the lap. He's just gone around turn 9 towards turn 10. And Gabriel Bortoleto, I can't see moving anymore. There's a lot of cars just going very, very slowly around the track. Reset the map. I will try. Oh, Max Verstappen, our race leader, also nearly has a moment himself. Verstappen, no rear grip at all for Max Verstappen. That is very, very shaky indeed from the current world champion. Piastri still on the intermediate tyres behind. Bit of a gap to Lando Norris now in third. And there's the virtual safety car again. This time for Gabriel Bortoletto's car. Another virtual safety car as another car has to come to a stop just off of the racetrack. It was Liam Lawson before. Now Gabriel Bortoleto has dropped out of it. Oh, George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. And George actually swapping places with Kimi. Team orders coming into play. George Russell being let by his teammate. And I think reasonably so. Antonelli just still trying to get to grips with those very tricky slick tyres in these conditions. George Russell, though, is the one to keep an eye on. Russell still sort of 20 seconds behind Esteban Ocon. Still 35 seconds off the leaders, though. And Russell not yet sort of putting in those ridiculous lap times that we would hope for from a slick tyre versus an intermediate tyre. I mean, could play into their favour, though. Oh, thank you, GameStar, for the super chat, and Sally for the super chat. Massively. Silverstone, keep calm and trust hammer time. Well, Lewis Hamilton running 4th at the moment. Rain expected in the next 10 minutes or so. And people are saying the map is lagging. Yeah, I can't really do too much about it. It's not my end. It will be multi-viewers' end that things are lagging. So unfortunately, there's not too much I can do. I can reset it. I've reset it once or twice. I will try my best to keep it going. Can anyone tell me why there's a huge gap between the Mercedes and Ocon? Because Ocon is still on the intermediate tyres. Everybody behind Ocon has now pitted. We are still under the virtual safety car. Alonso on the radio. Light rain around 6 laps. Then 4 laps after that, there'll be heavier rain. So the intermediate tyre runners just sort of preying on the rain to come sooner rather than later. Lance Stroll, though, into the pits. So the Aston Martin's deciding to split the strategies a touch here. Lance gonna come in, comes out. Lance now actually played pretty well. Comes onto the soft compound tyre and is on 12th place. So pretty solid stop there from Lance Stroll. Pretty good idea. As long as the rain doesn't team down in the next 3 or 4 laps, then it will look like a pretty terrible idea. Kevin Magnussen joining the Stake Sauber team this weekend inside of their garage. Maybe visiting his old teammate Nico Hülkenberg. So we have lost Bortoletto, Lawson and Colapinto as we get back racing again. Green flag, virtual safety car is ending. And Verstappen versus Piastri is the run for the lead then. Verstappen leading by just 4.5 tenths of a second. Lando Norris a couple of seconds adrift then. Hamilton in 4th. Gasly 5th now. But again, keep your eyes on those slick tyre runners. Will we see Lance Stroll, George Russell, Kimi Antonelli put in some fast laps here? Oscar Piastri currently the fastest lap of anybody so far, although we haven't really had too many laps of full racing yet. Verstappen versus Oscar Piastri. Just coming around the final sectors here and the final couple of corners onto the pit straight to start our first, what feels like our first real lap of racing. Oscar Piastri chasing down Max Verstappen. Verstappen, unfortunately, will have the advantage on the straights because there's no DRS active here. And we know that the Red Bull is running that slightly skinnier rear wing. This is where Piastri can close the gap, though, through the twisty bits as he comes through turn 3, 4, 5. Can he now get it done? DRS wide open for Oscar Piastri. I didn't think the DRS was activated. DRS is active. Wow, it's just come through. DRS has just been enabled, literally lap 8 of the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri then does have the DRS advantage, closes the gap to Max Verstappen as they come through turn 7. Round turn 8 they come then. Max Verstappen closing in. Turn 9 is going to be very tight indeed. Of course, we saw Max Verstappen spin out there versus Lewis Hamilton in 2021. But the McLaren of Oscar Piastri doesn't go for the move there. Instead, waiting a little bit longer. Piastri continues on through turn 12 and 13. They go. They're so tightly packed together. Oscar Piastri sliding a little, but still has the advantage. DRS then wide open for Oscar Piastri. He's going to make a move for the lead. The current World Championship leader does take the lead of the British Grand Prix, has that speed advantage down to turn 15, and we have a new race leader in Oscar Piastri. Down to turn 16, he gains the lead on Max Verstappen. And George Russell has just confirmed on the radio that it is raining. The Mercedes cars, they gambled. You look at Russell, Antonelli, Leclerc, Hajar, Behrman, they all made a big gamble that the rain would not come. And Oscar Piastri absolutely flying. Yeah, it's broken DRS range from Max Verstappen already before they get to the first DRS zone, as Lewis Hamilton versus, oh no, sorry, that's Charles Leclerc getting past Kimi Antonelli, and Antonelli comes back at him as they come towards the pit straight. Charles Leclerc versus Antonelli, both on slick tyres. Antonelli has just about held that position. Fastest lap of the race does go to George Russell, who is 3 seconds quicker than Oscar Piastri. I know that Oscar was battling with Max there, but 3 seconds quicker than Piastri currently, George Russell. So Russell is on the right tyre for now, but if it does start to rain, you're then sort of looking at the soft compound or the slick tyres that he is on falling away. Normal grip conditions is the perspective of the race control at the moment. Charles Leclerc sensing an opening, though, battling with Kimi Antonelli, the Italian driver versus the Italian car. Oh, and those medium tyres just got a little bit more grip than Antonelli at the moment, but Charles Leclerc still stuck behind him. Seeing George Russell disappearing up the road is Charles Leclerc. Lance Stroll has actually moved up into 10th place as well. He's overtaken Esteban Ocon and Nico Hülkenberg. He's going a lot quicker, again, on those slick tyres currently, Lance Stroll. Just needs enough laps for it to be worth it, doesn't he? Needs enough laps before it starts to rain again, where he can just gain that advantage. Nico Hülkenberg has come into the pits. Let's see what Hülkenberg does here then. Hülkenberg into the pits. Will he go for the softs, mediums or hards, or is it another set of intermediate tyres expecting the rain to come? As Kimi Antonelli comes into the pits. So Antonelli into the pits for a second time. Hülkenberg has gone for another set of intermediates, and Antonelli has swapped those hard compound tyres. So looks like the intermediate is the choice, and those drivers that gambled on the slicks, your Lance Stroll, George Russell, maybe they've made a mistake. We'll have to wait. It's going to continue to play out. George Russell has just managed to get past Esteban Ocon as well. So George Russell is still going very quick, and Charles Leclerc has just set the fastest lap of the race. If the rain does fall, those slick tyres are really going to start to fall away from the drivers that decided to put them on. It is not raining currently, but is looking like it is threatening to do so. Max Verstappen on the radio. And Max Verstappen saying, if it really starts to hit hard, we do need to pit. He has bad inters. So those intermediate tyres, the problem is it's not wet enough for those intermediate tyres to work in the way that they would want to. They're not as effective in these mixed conditions. You do kind of want it to be a fairly wet track for those inters. Otherwise, they just overheat. And we start to see them balding almost. And they start to look like a set of slicks because those grooves just even out as the laps come through. Charles Leclerc decides to pit in the end, though. Lance Stroll is also into the pits again. So everybody who was on those soft compounds and slick tyres coming in. And that's why the rain is really coming down in that middle part of the lap now. It is teeming with rain as Lando Norris is actually closing in on Max Verstappen. So Verstappen clearly struggling on those intermediate tyres where the McLaren car is able to just hold on to them that little bit better. And Silverstone is throwing some absolute spanners into the works for the majority of the grid right now. Everybody who gambled on slicks has got to come back in again. Everybody who stayed out on the intermediate tyres, those intermediate tyres are starting to go off as Max Verstappen's are. Piastri decides to box, but it's Verstappen versus Norris through the final part of the lap, and they get very close together. Sorry, through the middle part of the lap. Lando Norris decides to have a little bit of a lunge through turn 9, and there's a mistake from Verstappen. Verstappen goes wide at turn 13, and Verstappen opens the door through 14 for Norris to take that second place spot. Lando Norris up into second position. we know that Oscar Piastri is going to box, so Lando Norris is going to lead the Grand Prix unless the McLaren cars decide to double stack. They do indeed. Here comes Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, so the race leaders are coming in now. Everybody is all over the place. Just look at that track map. There are so many drivers that are completely and utterly all over the place. Lewis Hamilton comes in and is followed by a real stretch of cars. Alex Albon decides to stay out on those used intermediate tyres. Tsunoda is in. Ocon stays out as well. So Ocon maybe just holding on to those tyres a bit better. Albon as well, or gambling on being able to do it. Albon is actually going to come out in and around Max Verstappen. And Verstappen is going to hit the back of Alex Albon's car. That's not fun news if you're the Red Bull driver. But look at the mix of cars that we have got. Lewis Hamilton pits, comes out behind Nico Hülkenberg and all of that. Lance Stroll also has gained massively in all of this. Stroll, even though he's pitted earlier on, is now up into 6th place. So Stroll and Hülkenberg will be looking at the fact that Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari is behind them and absolutely rubbing their hands together. Gasly down in 9th place now. 10th place for Fernando Alonso. George Russell still hasn't been able to get back up into the point scoring places. Charles Leclerc has also come out amongst all of this behind Sainz and Tsunoda. So if you are George Russell, Charles Leclerc, you are absolutely shaking your head at how this has played out. Max Verstappen has managed to dispatch Alex Albon. Albon not really racing these front runners, so I don't think will cause them too much of a headache. But Lando Norris is now losing time. And Lando Norris came out behind Max Verstappen actually after the pit stop. So maybe a slow stop for the McLaren team because they were double stacking. Had to wait for Piastri to get out of the way. So even though Verstappen did make that mistake and let Lando Norris through, Norris now behind Verstappen again. And Lando Norris being told on the radio, we expect at least 10 minutes of rain. 10 minutes of rain. Yeah, a bit of a slow stop from the McLaren team there. Did indeed. Piastri was actually out before, but Lando Norris a little bit slower. Verstappen then pulled into the pits. And the Red Bull pit stop was just better. Was just better, unfortunately, for the McLaren team. And those fine margins is tenths of a second, but those tenths of a second allowing Max Verstappen to get the jump in the pits. So unfortunately, Lando Norris now behind Verstappen again, and both of them on fresh intermediate tyres. Lance Stroll making moves up into 4th place, having a battle with Nico Hülkenberg. Esteban Ocon behind in 6th as well. Hamilton started to make his way through a touch. Gasly now in 8th. Russell in 9th. So Russell is starting to make those moves forwards once again. Arguably full wet conditions out there in areas now because it's very, very wet indeed, especially through the middle sector of the lap. Just the spray coming off the back of Lando Norris's car as they are fighting side by side. Lando Norris gets a little bit of a mistake, but still holding on to the back of Max Verstappen's car. They're side by side with one another again through this middle part of the lap. Verstappen coming down towards turn 15. DRS obviously disabled at this point, so Lando Norris having to do it all behind Max Verstappen's Red Bull car. They come down towards turn 16. Is absolutely hammering it down. Little bit lighter through this final part of the lap. But then as soon as you get around the final corner, it is back to torrential rain in Silverstone. Lando Norris closing in, and the safety car is deployed. Safety car is deployed, I think, because of the amount of water now on the track and visibility. A lot of drivers on the radio complaining about the visibility. And full safety car indeed. Oscar Piastri will be frustrated by that. Just gained himself a 14-second lead over Max Verstappen. But Max Verstappen struggling. Lando Norris couldn't quite get past him yet, so both of them were losing time to Piastri. And Piastri now is going to lose that advantage. Full safety car. It's going to wait for Piastri to come around and catch it. So we have Piastri, Verstappen, Norris, our top three. And then behind that, it is pure and utter chaos. Stroll, Hülkenberg, 4th and 5th place. After a couple of pit stops each. Gasly then in 6th. Ocon has just continued on in 7th place. So Esteban Ocon in 7th at the moment. Lewis Hamilton then down in 8th place has been a big loser there. Considering, you know, Hamilton was in that same pack as Piastri, Verstappen, Norris. Oh my goodness. Charles Leclerc went very deep indeed. And oh my goodness. Charles Leclerc cutting corners, but also just couldn't find the track inside of his Ferrari car. Don't see that very often. It's just have to wait and see whether Charles Leclerc's done any damage to that Ferrari as he went grass cutting. He's down in 14th place ahead of Kimi Antonelli in 15th. Charles Leclerc started in the top 6 as well. So absolute chaos to start this Silverstone Grand Prix. The safety car has caught Oscar Piastri at turn 5. So Piastri has now caught the back of the safety car. It's still raining though, so the visibility isn't going to get any better, surely, between now and behind the safety car running. They can't handle the rain. I think it's more just the visibility is so poor. It's not that they can't handle the rain. It's, as we just saw with Charles Leclerc, they can't even see where they're going. Like, they literally have zero visibility. So you're just guessing at where the corners are. And when you do make a mistake, as Charles Leclerc did, you're just a passenger. You're just watching the car run across the grass. Luckily for Charles Leclerc, Silverstone is one of those tracks where if you do go wide, there's quite a few areas where you can sort of catch the track again, if you know what I mean. So like if you go straight at turn 6, for instance, you will eventually get to tarmac once more, but it could have easily been Charles Leclerc into the barriers there. It's pretty lucky he went off where he did. But safety car is out. Safety car has now caught the front 3. Lance Stroll, the next driver, to have a little bit of a gap to close in. Hülkenberg, Gasly, Ocon, Hamilton, Russell, and Alonso are top 10. Oh, thank you for the safety chat. Massively appreciate that. Who do I think is going to win? Flip a coin at this point. Absolutely. Oscar Piastri's been the quickest so far, but even he was under pressure from Lando Norris. I think Norris in the right window is the quickest driver out there at the moment. Max Verstappen is struggling, but we know that in these conditions, he manages to always find a way to make it work. Then you've got just pure chaos behind, right? Stroll, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Ocon, all of those guys. Are they in contention for podiums all of a sudden, you know? Just one mistake from the top 3, and we're looking at a Lance Stroll podium position here. Hülkenberg also in touching distance of a podium finish. Of course, never finished on the podium before, Nico Hülkenberg, despite the insane driving ability that he has got and the years of Formula One experience. He's always found himself just not quite in the right place at the right time as Hülkenberg. Maybe this is finally the one. 5th place at the moment. Pierre Gasly, he managed to get a podium last time we had an insane race like this in Brazil last year. You might remember double Alpine podium. So Gasly will be looking at that in 6th place as well. Esteban Ocon was on the podium with him. They were teammates at Alpine. He's 7th place just behind. Lewis Hamilton is on a streak of 13 podium places in a row. He's in 8th place. And Fernando Alonso just disappointed. Crazy how you never get it right with me. That is a damning statement, isn't it, over the radio from the Aston Martin man? I mean, he's probably seeing the fact that Lance Stroll is running in 4th place and thinking, hang on, I was the one that started this race ahead of my teammate. I was the one that started this race as best of the rest. And now he finds himself behind Hamilton, behind Russell still, but also behind Ocon, Gasly, and Hulkenberg and Stroll, who he started ahead of in all of this. Sainz in 11th place. Albon, his teammate, behind in 12th. Albon went really long as well, but managed to sort of slot in okay in terms of his position. Safety car is still coming around. The rain has stopped. The rain has stopped. As you can see, at the top of the timing sheets, you can see the how many laps we've got left. Then the wind, the track temperatures, the humidity. Right at the end there, you will see rain. And it does just say no. So no rain at the moment. But the safety car is still out. Everybody has found their place behind the safety car. 3 drivers out of the race, of course. Gabriel Bortoleto, Liam Lawson, and Franco Colapinto no longer taking part. But getting towards the track being raceable again, it feels like. And it's just trying to keep the tyres up to temperature now is the real thing for these drivers. Not so much the visibility, as the track is getting... Well, there's nothing better to drive the racing line than 17 cars moving the water off of it. So all of these cars using those intermediate tyres, the grooves there, then spray that water up and away from the racing line as well. So we are getting a little bit more of a smooth racing line. There's still a lot of spray through that middle part of the lap. You can just see the cars coming through turn 4 and turn 5. There's a lot of spray there. Oh my goodness, as Max Verstappen gets very close to the back of Oscar Piastri, almost alongside Oscar Piastri. I think Piastri just slowing down maybe a little bit more than Max Verstappen expected. You jinxed it by saying no DNFs for Colapinto. That's very true. I did say that. But there were 2 DNFs for Jack Doohan in 6 races. Just the 1 DNF for Franco Colapinto. But apart from that, like, they're pretty similar. Safety car continues. Nothing from the race control messages at the moment. Charles Leclerc's lap time was deleted for when he went off at turn 12 and rejoined the track at turn 14. So I think that's fair. I think that's a reasonable lap deletion. How long will we be behind the safety car? Oh, safety car in this lap. Literally, as I say it, the safety car then launches away from Oscar Piastri, and we do get race control. Safety car in this lap, as you can see, basically in the middle of your screens. Safety car is ending. Safety car just coming towards the pit lane as well. Oscar Piastri just coming towards turn 50. Piastri and Verstappen weaving their way around. Lando Norris also gunning for his teammate ahead. When will Piastri lunge? Weaving around. Green flag is waved. There's a lot of drivers here that will be absolutely itching to make up some positions after losing out under the safety car conditions. And here goes Oscar Piastri then. He gets away from Max Verstappen. But for how much longer? Piastri is there down towards the line he goes. Gets a good run at it. And we go racing again. And now that we're racing again, that spray is a little bit more. But George Russell going for a move on Esteban Ocon and manages to get it done. So George Russell up in front of Ocon, but then Ocon comes back at him. And it's a little bounce between the two, I think. Ocon and Russell and Hamilton all getting very close to one another. Russell has managed to come out away and ahead. So Ocon has dropped back 2 positions. Hamilton and Russell gaining on the Haas car there. Yuki Tsunoda is also under a lot of pressure from Charles Leclerc in all of this. Piastri, Verstappen, Norris still our front 3. Lance Stroll has maintained 4th place. Here goes the inside move. Charles Leclerc on Yuki Tsunoda. And Charles Leclerc also up into 13th place, starting to make those moves. We were expecting Russell and Leclerc to, well, Leclerc in particular, all the way down in 13th place, really out of position considering where he started in all of this. Let's see what Charles Leclerc can do. It's a long way to go. And and it's Isaac Hajar. Hajar has made a mistake. Hajar is in the wall, I think. Possibly in the barriers at turn 9. And there is the safety car. And Isaac Hajar has indeed crashed. And that is a big crash for Isaac Hajar by the looks of things. That's very disappointing if you're an RB fan. There's both of the RB cars now out of the race. I will let you know what happened specifically, but it's a pretty solid crash from Isaac Hajar. He's gone wide at turn 9 there. Looks like on the entry to turn 9, he's just completely lost it because he's also facing the wrong way. And Esteban Ocon decides to pit under the safety car conditions. Ocon is in to the pits then. What's Ocon going to do here? Is it a fresh set of inters that he's after? Surely it must be. It is indeed a fresh set of intermediate tyres. Go on to Esteban Ocon's car. And Antonelli and Hajar, seems like there was a little bit of contact between the two of them. Hajar came out a lot worse by the looks of it. Hajar into the wall. Let's have a look then. Isaac Hajar on board with the RB. Oh, and he just couldn't see the back of Kimi Antonelli's car. And just literally runs into the back of him. And to be fair, from the onboard, I couldn't see Kimi Antonelli's lights either. And Antonelli gets bumped into. Antonelli, how he continued on. That'd have been a pretty hefty shunt from the rear end of the Mercedes there. Did drop him back a couple of positions, but did well to stay in the race, Kimi Antonelli. As George Russell and Lewis Hamilton were also having a little battle just before the safety car was deployed. Yeah, Hajar's visibility, if you watch the onboard, is pretty scary. There's absolutely nothing to say that Kimi Antonelli is right in front of him. And then I think that, you know, it also comes with a bit of experience. Isaac Hajar won't have raced in these conditions in Formula 1 before. He's getting used to it, the intermediate tyres and how they work. A lot of these cars, you know, they're not used to running on the intermediate tyre. And sometimes, unfortunately, that plays against you. And we're seeing rookies dropping like flies at this point. Hajar, Bortoletto, Lawson and Colapinto now all out of the race. So Isaac Hajar hitting into the back of Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli dropped from 12th to 15th in that. Had to take evasive maneuvers, but is still running. Is there any damage to the back of that Mercedes car? They didn't show it for very long. But I imagine it was a pretty hefty shunt. And again, like, you know, you look at those cars that did gamble on the slick tyres early and just really hasn't played out for them, has it? Hamilton also looking at the back of an Alpine car. Hulkenberg ahead as well in 5th place. Lance Stroll in 4th. And the safety car, I forgot that the safety car's orange in here. The green safety car has been put to one side. Safety car continuing on. Piastri still leads. Did manage to maintain that lead through the first safety car period. And Piastri continuing on. Did feel like he was escaping away from Verstappen as well. But Verstappen now right behind him once again. Lando Norris in 3rd spot behind as well. Ricky's not doing well in the rain like in Australia. Yeah, exactly. It's so difficult to get a grip of, you know, Formula One cars as a whole, let alone then add into the fact that you've got nearly no grip whatsoever. It does become quite a tricky task to be a Formula One driver for your first season when, as I say, you've got no experience really of the cars in these kind of conditions on this circuit. And the puddle in turn 2 is the problem. And not very nice in an F1 car, says Oscar Piastri. Ooh, thank you, Scott Hadley, for the super chat. Super chat's all over the place today. Appreciate that, mate. Come on, Max. Rage bait, as I know how much you like him. I don't mind Max, but I would not like Max Verstappen to win over either of the McLarens. I don't mind Max Verstappen on the podium. Maybe if he could slot in nicely behind Lando Norris. Be fine with that. But nah, Scott, appreciate that. Thank you so much, mate, for the super chat. If everybody else could hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. They're things that you can do completely for free, and they massively help out the channel. Kimi Antonelli coming into the pits once again. And I think maybe just checking the damage on the rear end of that car whilst they stop. Not a lot of time to check the damage on the rear end of that car. 3.1 seconds the pit stop, but there is a mechanic there that gives a thumbs up for the Mercedes team. So, I mean, there is quite a bit of damage to the right-hand side of Kimi Antonelli's diffuser, but apparently not bad enough as Mercedes have let him continue. He's going to join the back of the pack once again, Antonelli. He's going to have a fresh set of intermediate tyres, even if he is missing quite a big chunk of his diffuser. So we'll see how that plays out. But Behrman and Ocon ahead of him, both of the Haas cars in 14th and 15th. Haas cars not enjoying these conditions at all. Esteban Ocon on the radio. And clever from Mercedes. Hot tyres now on the restart. Maybe Ocon saying, you know, we should have waited for the safety car a little bit longer. But you don't know how long the safety car is going to last. So Esteban Ocon sort of saying that, but also Ocon, you are in a Haas car versus a Mercedes car, so it's always going to be a tricky task for you to keep him behind. Why is there a big gap between Leclerc and Albon? Is there? There is not. Don't think there is. Oh, safety car ending. Safety car ending, lap 21. Safety car's coming in. And Max Verstappen goes actually ahead of Oscar Piastri there for a moment. I think Max Verstappen just forgetting that he needs to be in 2nd place come the safety car restart, but slots in behind Piastri once again. Maybe Piastri just slowing down a little bit too much. Green flag is waved though, and Piastri comes away. Oh, and Max Verstappen's lost it. And Verstappen spins. Verstappen then spins out. He's going to rejoin, but he's going to be in and amongst the Williams cars. And that is very un-Max Verstappen-like, isn't it? Verstappen spinning on the restart at turn 15. Couldn't get his Red Bull in a straight line. And Piastri versus Norris is now our top two. Carlos Sainz has got the better of Verstappen through the final couple of corners. So Verstappen sits between the two Williams cars now. And I'm really sorry, mate. But you've jinxed Max Verstappen there. Scott, I'm sorry. Max Verstappen now finds himself in a really... And he's all over the place, is Verstappen. He's losing that rear end of that Red Bull car completely. He's now going to let Alex Albon through. Max Verstappen has got no grip on the rear end of that Red Bull car. Verstappen's going to have a little look back down the inside and does make it move. Verstappen now back ahead of Alex Albon, but not making it easy for himself as there's another yellow flag, which has then come to an end. Oh, and who is that? That has come... It's Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman made a mistake through the middle part of the lap, so is rejoining behind Kimi Antonelli. So Ollie Behrman behind. Piastri now still leads, and Piastri got away incredibly well there. Piastri and Norris disappearing in front. Lance Stroll in third place, now 4 seconds off the back of Lando Norris, 7.5 seconds off the back of Oscar Piastri. And Max Verstappen not very happy on the radio about Oscar Piastri, and then loses his Red Bull car anyway as he goes through turn 15. Manages to get it back, though, the Red Bull driver, and is currently now in 10th place. Lance Stroll in third. Scott, it's all your fault. Don't blame yourself, Scott. Don't blame yourself. Thank you for the super chat again. But it's going to be okay. Max Verstappen's done dream things before in these kind of conditions. He just needs a fresh set of inters, maybe. And a new rear wing. But Piastri now leads. Norris in second place. Lance Stroll is down in third. Hülkenberg fourth. Gasly fifth. Hamilton up into sixth place now then. And is fighting with Pierre Gasly for sixth spot. Just needs to be a little bit careful because George Russell is right there as well. And Oscar Piastri is now actually under investigation for that safety car incident. He gets a 5-second penalty. That would be absolutely dreamland for Lando Norris in all of this. Means that he doesn't have to get ahead of his teammate on track. Just has to stick with him. Lando Norris 3.3 seconds behind Lance Stroll. It's actually gaining on the top two. Or, well, at least... Oh, no, he's not. Sorry. I was thinking of a 7-second gap to Piastri. It's now nearly a 7-second gap to Lando Norris. Lance Stroll 10 seconds off the lead of this Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg is now in the hunt for a podium. Who would have thunk it at the beginning of this weekend's racing? Hülkenberg so slow in qualifying yesterday, couldn't get out of Q1 and is now in contention for a podium place. Gasly versus Hamilton is also playing out just behind. Hamilton starting to get a little bit frustrated at looking at the rear end of that Alpine car. We're not even halfway through this Grand Prix. Goodness me. I think he needs a Mercedes. Well, I don't know. I think Max Verstappen has been a little bit old there. British bias if Oscar gets a penalty. Well, I don't know. They'll look at it properly. It's under investigation. George Russell, oh, having a look at the inside of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton peeled away just a touch there, and George Russell had a sneaky little look at the inside of the Scuderia car. Decided against it, though. And George Russell continues on. Russell, oh, and Hamilton goes wide. Hamilton goes super wide, and then George Russell's going to have the momentum around turn 8 and through turn 9, and Russell is now ahead. George Russell then gets ahead of Lewis Hamilton up into 6th place, and Hamilton has made a mistake. It was a little mistake from Lewis Hamilton, but a mistake nonetheless. Just opened the door to his ex-Mercedes teammate. And Russell back up into 6th spot. And Alpine ahead of him now. This is it from George Russell's perspective. Into turn 9 they went. George Russell just saw the opportunity and got it done through turn 10, 11 and 12. And he was well ahead. Kimi Antonelli has come into the pits. Oh, and it's Kimi Antonelli out. Oscar Piastri's been given a 10-second time penalty. A 10-second time penalty for Oscar Piastri. Let me show you there. 10-second time penalty for safety car infringement. A 10-second penalty. That is huge for the World Championship. Lando Norris now 3 seconds behind his teammate and does not need to overtake him. So Lando Norris can just sit comfortably behind and wait for Oscar Piastri to fall behind him. Wow. That is a huge, huge penalty for Oscar Piastri there. Not sure I agree with that. I'd have to see the onboards. Goodness me. Amongst that, I was saying, Kimi Antonelli has come into the pits, and unfortunately that damage to the rear part of his diffuser does seem to have been fatal. It's come into the pits and is now out of the race. So we have now lost Antonelli, Hajar, Bortoletto, Lawson, and Colapinto. There's not many rookies left, is there? Ollie Behrman is running in 15th place. And is that it for the rookies? Tsunoda, Ocon, Leclerc, Albon, Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Gasly. Yeah, that is it for the rookies, right? So all of the rookies literally running in, well, either last or out of the race is where we are at. A 10-second penalty feels pretty egregious for Oscar Piastri. Yuki Tsunoda and Ollie Behrman also now under investigation as well. Let's have a little look at this then. So the safety car disappeared away. Oscar Piastri slowed down. And in the eyes of the stewards, Piastri slowed down too much. You can see it from Max Verstappen's perspective. The McLaren car is basically not moving, to be fair. And a mistake from Piastri. Unfortunate from Piastri there. Feels like he didn't have to do that. You know, he slowed down a good amount. And they'll have a look at the telemetry, but that 10-second penalty has been given. And Zach Brown doesn't have the data in front of him in terms of that slowing speed for Piastri, but the 10-second penalty has been given, and the 10-second penalty is a 10-second penalty. So Oscar Piastri is now effectively running behind his teammate, because that 10-second penalty is going to take him well behind Lando Norris, who is 4 seconds adrift of the race leader. Does mean that he's still in second, though, Piastri, as Lance Stroll is now 16 seconds off the race lead, as Hamilton is making a move. Oh, and Hamilton is back up ahead of George Russell. Hamilton is there. And Piastri versus Norris. They're talking about a double stack, but obviously Piastri's got a 10-second penalty. It'd be interesting to see how they play this out then, because Piastri's got the penalty and Lando Norris won't want to play around anymore. Will they double stack them? Because they have got a 17-second gap to Lance Stroll behind. So if McLaren want the two drivers to be able to battle this out properly and not just Lando Norris win it by default, if they think that the penalty was given unfairly to Oscar Piastri, they could pit both of the McLaren cars at the same time and leave it to on-track racing. 10-second penalty also given for Yuki Tsunoda for causing a collision. And Nico Hülkenberg is right underneath the rear wing of Lance Stroll too. Actually has been able to escape away from Gasly and Hamilton and Russell behind. So Piastri versus Norris for the lead. Lance Stroll running inside of the podium places. Again, not something I was expecting to say this weekend. Hamilton trying to get past Gasly. It's been Russell and Hamilton swapping positions, but suddenly Hamilton has found some pace once again. He's got back past George Russell and is now looking at the rear end of an Alpine once more, trying so hard. He's inside of a second. No DRS, of course, because the track is still damp. There's no rain at the moment. Wow. And Piastri being told on the radio, we have a 17-second gap to Stroll. You've been given a 10-second penalty. Get your head down. Put in the lap times. So we are halfway through the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri has now been given a 10-second penalty, which will impact the Drivers' Championship, as Lando Norris is the only driver within touching distance. Max Verstappen made a mistake on the restart. He's fallen down to in between the two Williams cars. He's in the dirty air, though, of those Williams cars, and Max Verstappen not very happy about it, which means Lance Stroll is currently running third of anybody. Hülkenberg is in fourth, Gasly in fifth, Hamilton is in sixth place, and again has a little look at the inside of the Alpine, but unable to move past. George Russell's down in seventh once again. And then Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, and Max Verstappen rounding out the point-scoring places. Oh, and Yuki Tsunoda has made a mistake and gone off. So alongside that 10-second penalty that Yuki Tsunoda has got, he's also now running last of anybody, down in 15th place. And Lewis Hamilton is trying absolutely everything that he can to get past that Alpine. Gasly is doing an exceptional job at defending from the 7-time world champion. Just a really solid qualifying performance, and now an incredibly compact race performance from Pierre Gasly as well. Piastri, Norris still at the front. That gap increasing to Lance Stroll, but Norris still 3.5, 4 seconds behind his teammate. Nico Hülkenberg has actually dropped off the back of Lance Stroll a touch, but still well within touching distance compared to Pierre Gasly, who's then 3 seconds behind. Hamilton then within that range of striking to the Alpine, but unable to do it right now. Hamilton going for another podium place, 13 in a row he's got so far. It'd be 14 in a row if Hamilton can get himself up into third position. And it's midfield cars ahead of him, but the conditions make it that much trickier. George Russell in 7th, Alonso in 8th, Carlos Sainz 9th, Verstappen down in 10th. Albon, Leclerc, Ocon, Behrman and Tsunoda still running outside of the point-scoring places. Antonelli, Hajar, Bortoleto, Lawson, Colapinto, 5 drivers out of this Grand Prix. Stroll on the podium. Stroll's looking comfortable at the moment as well. It's 19 seconds off the lead, but it's not about the two McLarens for him at the moment. It is about keeping Nico Hülkenberg at arm's length. And Pierre Gasly is also doing him a favour, although Hamilton is trying to go for the move now. Hamilton up the inside of Pierre Gasly through the final couple of corners they come, and Hamilton is ahead of Gasly as they come through the final sector. And he's going to start the lap ahead of the Alpine. Hamilton then will be looking at Nico Hülkenberg and Lance Stroll ahead, and never say, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to jinx Lewis Hamilton. I'm not going to do a Scott here. But if you look at where Lewis Hamilton is and you look at the cars ahead of him, I'm just going to, point that out. Not going to say anything. I'm just going to point that out. Oscar Piastri still leads 3.2 seconds the gap to Lando Norris behind. Lance Stroll 19 seconds off the lead. So Piastri will be able to serve that 10-second penalty and still come out. I didn't say anything, Sarah. I didn't say anything. I just pointed it out. Just pointed out where he is and what he's doing. Didn't say anything. We've done some good jinxing today. We've found some very solid jinxes. George Russell running in 7th. Is closing in on Pierre Gasly as well. Gasly did a tremendous job to keep Lewis Hamilton at bay for that long, but is now gonna be a tricky afternoon for Pierre Gasly, isn't it? George Russell in the wing mirrors. He did start this race behind Fernando Alonso, got the jump on Fernando Alonso at the beginning, and Fernando Alonso also closing in on the Alpine car. George Russell's going to go for the maneuver. Is he going to be able to make it stick? Not this time around. Gasly just about keeps himself ahead through turn 18, and they start the lap with the Alpine ahead, going down in towards turn 1. Russell right on his rear wing, though, and Fernando Alonso ready to pick up any scraps. Lewis Hamilton is 3.8 seconds adrift of 4th place. Nico Hülkenberg actually closing in on Lance Stroll, has been maybe given the hurry up by the Stake Sauber team, knowing that those cars behind are starting to find some pace. Got to assume these intermediate tyres are going to be starting to go off a touch as well. And it's about keeping them within that window. They're going to start to overheat, and as they start to overheat for different points of the lap and different teams at different points as well, we are still seeing the wet weather lights on the back of the cars, though, so no chance of people coming in for slicks yet. Still a lot of spray in various parts of the track, but surely those intermediate tires are going to start to just get that a little bit further into their lifespan, and that's the decision. Do you try and hang it out? Is there more rain to come, or do you come in, get yourself a fresh set of intermediate tires? Because a fresh set of intermediate tires, even in these conditions, would be very, very solid and give you a lot more grip than you've got right now. So tyres are getting towards 20 laps old for some of the front runners, even longer for Stroll and Hülkenberg just behind. Hülkenberg, 239 race starts, no podium to his name. And here we go. Lance Stroll is indeed being given that radio message that I was thinking about. Track temperatures are starting to increase, so is it now going to be the opportunity for possible slick tyres in the near future? Is the rain then going to come again? Oh, it's going to be such a gamble. It's not over and done with 20 laps left to run here at Silverstone. Team Stroll in the chat. Norris is catching Piastri. Norris is catching Piastri. 2.5 seconds now, the gap between the two of them. I think they kind of know. Lando Norris knows that he doesn't need to do anything spectacular, but he does need to keep Piastri within sort of pressure distance, especially because Piastri more likely to get the call on the pit stops just because he is leading. So Piastri, if the soft compound tyres or the slick tyres are the choice, Piastri will get the choice of them first. Then Lando Norris will have to pit after, but Piastri will have a 10-second penalty stacked on top of that pit stop. So, again, it's not completely over and done with. Piastri losing that 10 seconds. Lando Norris might have to do an extra couple of laps on a set of intermediate tyres when the soft compound tyres might be 2 seconds, 3 seconds quicker. Oscar Piastri, though, saying still not close to slicks in his opinion. So have to go with what Oscar's saying there. Still not close to slicks. He doesn't want the slick tyres yet. They are absolutely flying, though, the two McLaren cars. They are miles ahead of the rest of the pack, aren't they? Running around towards turn 9. Lance Stroll only just making his way down towards turn 6 under pressure from Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg has a little sneaky look at the Aston Martin. Not able to do it this time, though. Hülkenberg not giving up on this podium place by any stretch of the imagination. Knows as well that there is going to be a chance at pit stops, and there's going to be maneuvering around because of that. George Russell also closing in on Pierre Gasly once again. Can Russell make a move? Not quite this time. They are starting to search for those wet spots, though. You can see George Russell and Pierre Gasly both veering off the racing line, just looking for a little bit of water to cool down those intermediate tyres. Has Nico Hülkenberg been able to hold on to his intermediate tyres better than Lance Stroll? It looks like it. Hülkenberg coming into the final part of the lap, side by side with Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll just closing the door through turns 16 and 17. Lewis Hamilton is now just 2 seconds behind this duo. That final podium spot is certainly up for grabs, and there's a few drivers still in the mix for it. Russell and Alonso still causing Pierre Gasly a headache, just behind in 6th, 7th and 8th place, that little trio as well. Max Verstappen is still stuck behind Carlos Sainz. Just goes to show that the Red Bull, especially in traffic today, just does not seem to have the pace. That was why Verstappen was falling so far off the back of Oscar Piastri. And you can see now that he's actually trying to make moves forwards, he still just doesn't have the pace inside of that Red Bull. Max Verstappen running in 10th. Could it be 2 races in a row where Max Verstappen doesn't get any points? I know that he's got to drop a position to not pick up points, but I can't remember the last time we saw 2 races in a row where Max Verstappen didn't score any championship points, but it's very close to happening, as now we're seeing George Russell and Pierre Gasly side by side down towards turn 9. Russell's going to have the inside line, but Gasly is able to swoop in front, and Gasly closes the door. DRS, though, is now enabled, and George Russell's just got to worry a little bit about Fernando Alonso behind. Alonso had a sneaky little look as well. DRS wide open for Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg versus Stroll down in towards turn 15. Hülkenberg's going to do it, and Hülkenberg is up into 3rd place. His only podium ever in Formula 1 is currently right now, if it ends like this. Hülkenberg is up into 3rd place. Still a long way to go, though. 18 laps of racing left to run for Nico Hülkenberg. Lewis Hamilton now threatening behind Lance Stroll, but DRS is enabled. That means that normal grip conditions have been adjudicated by the stewards. And therefore, Lewis Hamilton goes for a move on Lance Stroll now. Hamilton up the inside of turn 3. Will he get it through turn 4? Yes. So Hamilton is up into 4th spot. Here we go then. Pick your poison, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Hülkenberg running in 3rd, Hamilton running in 4th. Who do you want it to be for more? Lewis Hamilton on a streak of podiums, 13 in a row for Lewis Hamilton here at Silverstone. Nico Hülkenberg never having had a podium, 239 race starts for the German. No podium places. And both of them in contention for it. Lance Stroll still there. Lance Stroll holding on to 5th place. Has a 7-second gap to Pierre Gasly down in 6th. George Russell still stuck behind the Alpine. Fernando Alonso trying to get there as well. Ooh, it is a tight race. I'm just looking at the lap times at the moment. Piastri and Norris still in the 141s. It's 143s for the cars behind. Max Verstappen in the 143s just. 144s as well. The McLaren is just in a complete and utter realm of their own. Nico Hülkenberg is 26 seconds off the lead of this race. And those upgrades to the McLaren car seemingly have taken it from dominant to just absolutely godlike, hasn't it? It's a 2-second gap between the two at the front, but then 30 seconds the gap. In not that long a lapse, remember, we only had the safety car in on lap 21 of this Grand Prix. So since lap 21, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have been able to eke out a 27-second gap between 2nd place and 3rd. They seem to have stolen Williams' Duracell bunny. I get that advert on YouTube so often. Like, so often. Carlos Sainz's tyres are starting to go off. Oh, sorry, that's Max Verstappen has made his way past Carlos Sainz. And actually, Charles Leclerc now having a look at the back of the Williams car. That all happened whilst I was having a little look at the gap between the front runners and the rest. And Lewis Hamilton. Track is pretty decent, starting to dry up a bit. And Hamilton thinks that the crossover will be within the next 5 or 10 laps. So who blinks first? Who gambles on those slick tyres? Seeing the gaps between the drivers, it's pretty tough because even if you gamble and you come out on your slicks, you don't want to hit a load of traffic, which a lot of the drivers will. Lewis Hamilton is now using his DRS behind Nico Hülkenberg. But Hülkenberg just seems to have the straight line speed advantage right now. Hülkenberg doing bits in front of Lewis Hamilton at the moment. Piastri, Norris, Hülkenberg are top 3. Lewis Hamilton in 4th spot. Lance Stroll down in 5th as well now. Gasly, Russell, Alonso, that trio still running all together. Max Verstappen has been able to get past Carlos Sainz. He's up into 9th place. Carlos Sainz now under threat from Charles Leclerc, even though he's in the final point scoring place. Does feel like the Ferrari has got the run at him this time. Charles Leclerc with DRS down towards turn 6 they go. Charles Leclerc does have a little look at the Williams driver. Not able to get past this time around, though. Carlos Sainz keeps his point scoring position for now. And Lewis Hamilton is now within a second and once again gets DRS to Nico Hülkenberg. Down this back straight they come towards turn 15. Hamilton's DRS is going to be open. He's not within touching distance, but just keeping yourself within that DRS range means that Hamilton is going to be able to chunk away at the 0.8, 0.7 seconds that he is behind Nico Hülkenberg. It's just whether those intermediate tyres will hold on as well. Will there be the crossover? Will Hamilton be the first driver to decide on some soft compound tyres? Possibly. Here's a 10-second gap to Gasly behind. Oh, as we see, Fernando Alonso. Alonso is in. And George Russell saying on the radio, it depends how brave we want to be. Come off the time, come off the man. Fernando Alonso is the first one into the pits. He wants those slick tyres now. He was angry about not being given the strategy that Lance had earlier on in the Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso, now the man to risk it all. Goes down to 14th place. Comes out still ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. It's got a little bit of nice clean air, actually. I can see why they pitted Fernando Alonso then. But Alonso, let's keep an eye on his track times. Goes for a set of medium tyres on that Aston Martin car. Still keeping an eye on Nico Hülkenberg here. Hülkenberg still within DRS range. Lewis Hamilton once again looking at the back of the Stake Sauber car. Hamilton finding some wet spots on the track as well to try and cool down those intermediate tyres. It is going to be a run to the line between these two, but one of them has got to blink first. Somebody's got to go onto the slick compound tyres, it feels. Fernando Alonso, though, struggling on the medium tyres. Have they gone too early? He's now getting overtaken by Yuki Tsunoda. Fernando Alonso's lap times are all over the place. Or that first sector time, sorry, is all over the place from Fernando Alonso. And Tsunoda has overtaken him. I think they've gone too early, although George Russell, box. Did Fernando Alonso make a mistake, possibly? I didn't see it, but his first sector time is pretty appalling. Also got outdone by Yuki Tsunoda. George Russell in. Hard compound tyre. Slicks on. It's going to be very tight indeed. Surely is going to come out behind Esteban Ocon where Fernando Alonso did, but Alonso is now behind Yuki Tsunoda and all of that. Alonso did indeed, yeah, went all or nothing and came out with looks to be nothing, unfortunately, for the Spaniard. Let's see what George Russell can do, though, as he goes around the first few corners tentatively, trying to get some temperature in those tyres. Easier said than done. But hard compound tyres go onto George Russell's car, as we can see on the graphic there, running in 13th at the moment. And Alonso literally all over the place on those medium tyres. Yuki Tsunoda easily past Fernando Alonso. Let's see what Alonso's times are like, though. Because George Russell also going pretty slow. Tsunoda's catching up to the back. Oh, George Russell is a pretty good indicator, isn't it? George Russell comes out behind Esteban Ocon. Will he catch Esteban Ocon, or will Yuki Tsunoda catch him, is the question that we're asking ourselves. And, ooh, Charles Leclerc getting in. Oh, and there's a spin, and that's George Russell. Russell on the slick tyres. A big spin from George Russell at turn 10. And maybe it is just a little bit too damp. Yuki Tsunoda makes his way past. George Russell has managed to catch it and get himself back onto the grid, onto the racetrack. A little bit like what Charles Leclerc did earlier on, over the grass and through the gravel. Let's have a little look then. George Russell carrying that speed through turn 10. He comes. Oh my goodness me. That is a big spin from George Russell. 2 spins, in fact, from George Russell. Just about catches it as he's going towards turn 14. Rejoins the track there. But Russell and Alonso, feels like they've gone way too early. And Russell on the radio is much wetter than before. So Russell has thrown away any chance of points here, it feels like. Russell and Alonso falling away. Russell's pace nowhere near. Fernando Alonso 147.6 as well. So clearly too early for those soft compound tyres, or slick tyres, I should say. I keep saying soft, so when I mean slicks, but you know what I mean. You'll let me off. Yeah, George Russell just saying nowhere near where it was when those slick tyres were a bit better earlier on in the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri is being outdone by Lando Norris at the moment. Norris now 1.4 seconds behind his teammate. But again, Piastri with a 10-second penalty, so doesn't need to do anything particularly fantastic, does Lando Norris. Just keeping his teammate within touching distance. Now we're on board with Max Verstappen. Verstappen closes the gap to the back of the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, and Gasly has been in amongst the wars today. Gasly's just made a little mistake there, though, and Verstappen tries to capitalise, and Verstappen does capitalise. Up into 6th place goes Max Verstappen as they get to turn 5. Verstappen then also gets the DRS advantage because he was behind at the DRS detection point. Through turn 6 he goes, and up into 6th place. So Max Verstappen, a little bit of a rescue mission for him, but he's up into 6th place now. Will he pit between now and the end of the Grand Prix? 12 laps of racing left to run. Now 11 for Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris as they come across the start-finish line. Piastri on the radio. Don't make it too tricky, maybe, for Lando Norris, I think, is the call for Oscar Piastri, knowing that he's got a 10-second penalty. Feels like the McLaren team have basically said, look, Oscar, unfortunately, it's going to be Lando's day, as Hamilton, box, can't get past Nico Hülkenberg, has had enough at sitting behind that stake Sauber, and is going to come into the pits. Where is Hamilton going to come out in all of this? Well, Lance Stroll, who's behind him, comes into the pits as well. So does Verstappen, so does Gasly, so does Leclerc. This is the moment then. Everybody seemingly going for it. Oh, sorry, Charles Leclerc didn't come into the pits. Looked like he was following in. Charles Leclerc staying out. The Ferraris not deciding to double stack. Stroll comes in. Verstappen comes in. Gasly comes in. This is something for McLaren to now have a little think about. They know that they've got an idea. They've got that cushion ahead of the rest of the field. It's a 33-second gap between Piastri and Hulkenberg. They don't need to do anything too drastic, but the track is starting to dry enough for those slick tyres. And here comes Hamilton. Hamilton overtaken by Charles Leclerc there. Hamilton deciding to make that change. Hamilton now in 5th spot. Luckily, everyone behind Hamilton did pit at the same time, apart from Leclerc. Not sure Hamilton would have wanted to come out behind his teammate. Well, he didn't come out behind his teammate, but Charles Leclerc coming past Hamilton through the first couple of corners. Oh, and there was the mistake, because Hamilton, as he came out of the pits, no grip at all, went wide at turn 3, and that's why Charles Leclerc was able to make a move on his teammate. Charles Leclerc up into 4th and staying on the intermediate tyres. And Nico Hulkenberg comes in. Hulkenberg comes in to cover off Lewis Hamilton and cover off that podium place. Here you go, Nico Hulkenberg fans. This is going to be a very, very important pit stop for the Stake Sauber team. Charles Leclerc is going to come in, so we don't have to worry about Charles Leclerc coming out in and amongst where Hulkenberg is. Oh, it's a slow stop. It's a slow stop, but Hamilton made that mistake. It's a slow stop, but Hamilton also went wide at turn 3, so Hulkenberg is going to be okay. Hulkenberg's going to be, Hulkenberg's going to be more than okay. Hamilton is very slow lap from Lewis Hamilton, considering. Wow, that mistake actually cost Lewis Hamilton way more than I thought it did. Went much, much wider at turn 3 and lost a lot more time than I was expecting. A big, big gap now between Hulkenberg and Hamilton. It is looking very, very good if you're a German driver. Lance Stroll up into 5th place. Here comes Oscar Piastri. Here comes Oscar Piastri then from the lead of the Grand Prix. They leave Lando Norris out for another lap. And Lando Norris not double stacking, obviously, because of that 10-second penalty. They have to wait. 10-second penalty is done by Oscar Piastri. Then they get the pit stop. So it's a 14.6-second stop for Piastri because of that 10-second time penalty that he had. So Lando Norris now leads the race, and Lando Norris should come out ahead of his teammate. Oh, and it's a spin from a Haas car. Is it Ocon or Behrman? Not sure. Ocon, I think. Yeah, Ocon has spun for Haas. Luckily not causing any kind of safety car or anything like that. That would be a disaster for some of the drivers out there. Although most have now switched onto the slicks. Lando Norris is the only driver out on track, still on the intermediate tyre. This is now a real test of Oscar Piastri's resolve. He's got 9 laps left to go. It's on a fresh set of medium tyres. Oh, and Esteban Ocon, because of that spin, Ocon getting chopped up by his teammate there. Ocon and Behrman actually touched, and both of the Haas cars spun. Oh, that is not going to be a nice team meeting after the fact. Lando Norris is now in then. Lando Norris is in. Piastri is only just coming towards turn 15 now on our pictures. So Lando Norris is going to have a comfortable lead here, and a 2.4 second stop is a good stop indeed. Lance Stroll has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and everything has just kind of played itself out that Lando Norris is now going to come out in a nice bit of clean air. And Max Verstappen is still very frustrated inside of that Red Bull car. Norris versus Piastri is not looking like a battle that is going to happen. Norris now is going to have a good chunk of time to Piastri. Let's see then. Piastri with that 10-second penalty, 5 seconds the gap. So it's going to be a huge asking for Piastri to close that gap within 8 laps of racing. We've seen it done But he's going to need to do something special as Fernando Alonso now makes a move on Alex Albon and gets the move done. Fernando Alonso, the first driver onto those slicks, remember, is up into the point scoring places. Still running in third, Nico Hülkenberg, but Hamilton has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. A 6.7 second gap, though, between Hülkenberg and Hamilton. Oh, and Piastri. And Piastri says on the radio, I don't think that penalty was fair. Maybe we should swap back if you don't think it was fair as well. So Piastri now playing on the heartstrings of the McLaren team. Needs to... And the problem is, even if the team is on the radio to... You know, we had this in Hungary last year where Lando Norris was not willing to give up the place to Oscar Piastri then. This is for the championship now. This is a very different scenario that we are in. Even if they come on the radio and say to Lando, look, give the position back, there is no chance that he is going to give that position to Oscar Piastri. Piastri, 4.3 seconds, the gap between the two. Lando Norris, though, much nicer on his tyres. Piastri did go wide at turn 10. And Lando Norris on the radio. Just be careful out there. Lando Norris on the radio. Piastri is indeed gaining, though. Hülkenberg just comes back at it. Hülkenberg, fastest lap of the Grand Prix, in third place. This is looking very, very tidy for a Nico Hülkenberg podium, isn't it? Hülkenberg's got exceptionally good pace right now. Fernando Alonso just goes fastest of anybody as well. This is absolute chaos. There is nobody where you'd expect them to be, apart from the two McLarens at the top of the timing sheets. Hülkenberg in third place, Hamilton fourth, Stroll, Verstappen, Gasly, Alonso, Albon, Russell running down in 10th position. Then it's Ollie Behrman, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc has just had a big off into the gravel as well, meaning that Leclerc is now running basically last, as Yuki Tsunoda's in a different postcode to everybody else at this moment in time. Goodness me. It is looking all good. If you're a Nico Hülkenberg fan, 6.5 seconds the gap. Fastest lap of the race now goes to Piastri. But it's only a tenth of a second quicker than his teammate. Not going to be good enough to close that gap to Lando Norris. And it was a big asking, and it's an asking that's just not going to happen, unfortunately. And Hamilton then replies with the fastest lap of his own. But again, it's not the seconds faster needed to close the gap at this point. So realistically, the only battles left to play out are maybe Russell versus Albon and the possibility of Behrman points. Behrman is right there underneath Russell's rear wing at this moment in time. So the final point scoring places are certainly up for grabs. Apart from that, it feels like it's all pretty much there for Lando Norris to win his home Grand Prix, for Nico Hülkenberg to pick up his first podium in 239 races in Formula One, and for Hamilton to just miss out on keeping the streak. Lance Stroll just behind in 5th place as well. Max Verstappen has done pretty well to recover up to 6th. Gasly down in 7th. Fernando Alonso 8th. They're kind of pretty much where they started, the Alpine and the Aston Martin there. Alex Albon down in 9th place. George Russell down in 10th. Behrman, Sainz, Ocon, Leclerc, Tsunoda still running outside of the points. Russell and Behrman very close to those point scoring places. Antonelli, Hajar, Bortoletto, Lawson and Colapinto all out at the moment. Well, and will be out forever. They're out. Oscar Piastri now losing time to his teammate at the front. Lando Norris sets another fast lap, and it is 0.6 of a second quicker than Oscar. So 10-second penalty for Oscar Piastri was the nail in the coffin. The win at Silverstone is going to go to his teammate. And Oscar on the radio is being told we're not going to do any team orders. No team orders to help you out, Oscar. And I think that's fair. You know, the 10-second penalty, it's harsh. We'll have to look at it properly after the fact. But 10-second penalty was given by the stewards. And, you know, at this stage of the season, those are the defining moments. Yuki Tsunoda was also given a 10-second penalty. They've both sort of given their 10-second penalties now. So, oh my goodness me. Ollie Behrman still within DRS range of George Russell. One of those British drivers is going to score points here. Is it going to be Russell? Is it going to be Behrman? Behrman, remember, started in 18th place. Max Verstappen also dragging around Pierre Gasly at this point. Gasly within the DRS range of the Red Bull. Doesn't feel like he's going to go for a move anytime soon or anything like that, but continuing to follow along. And it does feel like everything has finished now. We have got 4 more laps of racing, technically, about to become 3. But Norris versus Piastri is played out. Norris is going to win this one. It's back-to-back victories for Lando Norris, which does break a little bit of a streak because beforehand this season, whenever Lando Norris has won, Piastri has then won the race after. Back-to-back victories for Lando Norris for the first time in Formula 1. And an incredible drive from Nico Hülkenberg behind. Hülkenberg, 3rd spot. A podium for the Stake Sauber team incoming. Not what was on my bingo card for the Silverstone Grand Prix. It is always a wacky weekend here in the British colours. I was going to say the British sunshine, but hasn't really been that here today, has it? The British mixed weather conditions. Oh, thank you, GameStar, for the super chat. A few super chats today. Appreciate that. Piastri can appeal the penalty post-race. He can. I mean, he'll probably, you know, he'll stay within 10 seconds of Lando Norris here. He's not going to do anything silly. I'm not sure that the stewards will change their mind on that, though. I think if they've seen what they've seen and they've come to that decision, they're probably going to stick with it. You know, when's the last time we saw a penalty redacted after the fact? I think it is now another 7 points towards Lando Norris. And in fact, shall we have a little look at the championship? Because we are getting towards the end of the race anyway. Oops. Oh, I don't have the championship on here. We can't. No, we can. Let me just grab it. Oh, it's because I'm on the wrong one. Idiot. Where is the championship? Here we go. So, Piastri still leads the championship. Again, another 7 points chunked out by Lando Norris. 25 points for the race winner. Max Verstappen still gains 8 points where he is now. George Russell just the 1. So, a little bit of a creeping ahead from Max Verstappen there. 7 point swing also. Charles Leclerc, no points for him today. Hamilton, 12 would mean Hamilton closes the gap to his teammate, but not by any significant margin, really, considering Charles Leclerc has been the better Ferrari driver this season. It's another 0 points weekend for Kimi Antonelli. Another couple of points for Albon would be exceptional, but there is the headline. Nico Hülkenberg would close to within, what was that, 7 points of Alex Albon from absolutely nowhere, considering how good the Williams car was at the beginning of the season and where we expected the Stake Sauber to be. Nico Hülkenberg would be on 37 points and almost best of the rest. Lance Stroll would also move up into 10th place. He'd be on 24 points for the season, ahead of Ocon and Hajar. Fernando Alonso would stay where he is, and Pierre Gasly would actually shuffle up a couple of positions into 14th place. But that is where it is. Oh! As Esteban Ocon is going to drop out of position. But we are going to start the final lap of the racing. Oh, I've waited 13 years for this podium and it's finally here. Thank you, Majiko, for the super chat. It is indeed. Nico Hülkenberg is a lap and a half away from immortality. It is an incredible, incredible feat to pick up a podium in Formula One, especially in a car that Nico Hülkenberg has been given a Stake Sauber last in the Constructors' Championship last year. Considerable margin in the Constructors' Championship last year as well. But now looking at his first ever podium. He comes and he delivers, doesn't he, Nico Hülkenberg? Just on an absolute tear in this second version of Nico Hülkenberg's career. Of course, off the grid for 3 years with Aston Martin as a reserve driver. And now back on it, came back with Haas, did amazingly there, got the move to Stake Sauber to become Audi as a German driver, and once again delivering the goods. Let's focus in on Lando Norris for a moment, though, as he's going to come towards the final sector. The Lando Norris stand in the background, a sea of yellow, and everybody stands to their feet as Lando Norris comes around the final couple of corners to win the British Grand Prix, his home Grand Prix, and also gain position on Piastri. 7 points, the swing in Lando Norris's favour. Closes the gap at the top of the championship once again. Piastri does come across the line second best. Here comes Nico Hülkenberg, though. Hülkenberg round the final couple of corners. It is going to be Hülkenberg, 239 race starts, 1 podium finish. Nico Hülkenberg, third fastest here today at Silverstone. And rightly so, the Stake Sauber team absolutely love it. Kevin Magnussen is here to see his old teammate as well. And I'm sure the two of them will be partying the night away. Lewis Hamilton comes home in 4th place, just 1 position adrift of keeping that podium streak alive. First year at Ferrari, and the podium streak comes to an end. Max Verstappen finishes the race in 5th place. Gasly in 6th. Lance Stroll down in 7th place then. And Albon, Alonso, Russell are final point scoring positions. Ollie Behrman finishes 11th. Carlos Sainz in 12th. Esteban Ocon 13th. Charles Leclerc 14th. Yuki Tsunoda in 15th place, which means Kimi Antonelli is the first driver to retire, 16th. Well, final driver to retire. Hajar also retired. Bortoletto, Lawson, Colapinto did not finish the Grand Prix. I've lost my words because I'm just overwhelmed. Let's look at the championship quickly. We saw it for a moment, but Piastri still leads. Lando Norris second place behind, but closes that gap. Verstappen still 3rd, Russell still 4th, Charles Leclerc still 5th, Hamilton remains 6th, and Antonelli still 7th, but another 0 points for Kimi Antonelli. 4 points for Alex Albon is huge, goes up to 46, increases that gap to 9 points from Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg up into 9th place, 37 points for him. Esteban Ocon will drop a position to 10th. Hajar remains 11th. Stroll remains 12th after Stroll lost those positions at the end. Gasly then up into 13th spot, up 3 positions, 19 points for the Alpine. Alonso down, even though he scores points, into 14th place. Sainz, Lawson, Tsunoda, Behrman, Bortoletto, and Colapinto stay where they are in the championship. After that, Pierre Gasly did indeed get Lance Stroll on the final lap of the race there. Just seeing the move of the Alpine. And a good move from Gasly, worth those points that he earns from it. McLaren still lead the Constructors' Championship by a considerable margin. Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, Williams stay where they were. But it is Kick Sauber. They 15 points gained from Nico Hülkenberg's podium place. 41 points for Stake Sauber now, up to 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. Racing Bulls stay where they are. Aston Martin then draw level with Racing Bulls, and Haas drop a couple of positions. Alpine move up to 19 points, but not a lot they can do about the gap that they've got to the rest of the field. Still a long way to go for Alpine. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massive congratulations to Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Nico Hülkenberg. They all deserve it. Hülkenberg more than the rest, maybe. Absolutely phenomenal from the German. We're going to be live now in about 2-3 minutes time, just over on the members only live stream for the post-race show. Join us there. We'll have a little chat about the podium celebrations. We'll be discussing everything that happened and going into the details post-race here as the Stake Sauber team have to run all the way from the other end of the pit lane to get towards the podium ceremony. It's a long run, but a run I'm sure they won't mind making. Thank you guys so much again. I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. We've got the Belgian Grand Prix, and then the Hungarian Grand Prix before the summer break. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those two. And we will be live for qualifying and the race both of those weekends. Thank you so much again. I will see you then.